Hey folks, Jackdaw here. Today I am once more continuing the conversation on Dragon Age Absolution. For those who don't know, Dragon Age is coming to Netflix with a new animated show titled Dragon Age Absolution. The show is premiering on the platform in December of this year, and the first trailer was released just last month. I've already made a shot-by-shot breakdown of this first trailer. However, as expected, today I have even more extended thoughts on this show. I've got a few additional things I'd like to go over and even more speculation to tinfoil about. So without further ado, let's crack into this one. First, let's go over my extended thoughts on Dragon Age Absolution's setting. So something huge that I completely overlooked in my Dragon Age Absolution shot-by-shot breakdown was the involvement of the Red Templars, Corypheus' army of warriors that were corrupted at Therinfall Redoubt. Now we can first of all assume that a few of these characters in the trailer are indeed Red Templars, and we'll actually confirm a few of those when we get to investigating them. But even so, Absolution's official Netflix plot synopsis described that the Red Templars are involved in this story, as well as elves, mages, knights, Qunari demons, and other special surprises. Now, the reason why the Red Templars' involvement in this narrative is such a big deal is because the last time we saw the Red Templars, they were scattered to the four winds after their leader Corypheus was killed at the end of Inquisition. Their mere presence and involvement directly connects Absolution to Inquisition's narrative. But when exactly in the timeline? Is Absolution set during Inquisition's narrative, at the height of the Red Templars' reign as they follow their scheme commanded by Corypheus before he met his end at the hands of the Inquisitor? Or most likely, is Absolution set post-Inquisition, post-Trespasser, showing the Red Templars slowly regaining their footing after losing their former leader, exactly like the remnants of the Venatori in Tevinter Nights? It's unknown, however I would certainly go with the latter option, as it works more as a standalone plot with new tales to tell without having to rely on Inquisition's narrative too much. Also, this post-Inquisition setting really works as a tie-in for future plotlines that could potentially connect to Dragon Age Dreadwolf. In any case, this series is a new saga with new characters and locations. While the Red Templar connection does help with the setting of this show, perhaps tying it in with Inquisition, perhaps acting more as a sequel, it's not totally concrete at the moment. We're just gonna have to wait and see when Absolution is set in the Dragon Age timeline. Now, connected to the setting of the narrative are the locations that this series will take us to. The plot description only stated Tevinter as a location. However, I can assure you, this trailer explores more of Thedas than just Tevinter. So the first shot of this trailer perfectly depicts Antiva City, as I explored in my breakdown, and I feel even more confident stating that right now, a month after. The bauble-like architecture, the Disney-like castles, the beaches, the marina. This shot perfectly showcases a waterfront city with a mountainous, jagged terrain and a sprawling ocean, which is exactly like Antiva City. So unless I am just completely wrong, I believe we may be seeing Antiva City in Absolution at some point. Perhaps Antiva will feature as like a childhood flashback, as an origin story of one of the many characters, or it may even feature in the narrative present day for whatever reason. Maybe the team have to go to Antiva, maybe there are a few lingering plots that need to be held there, who knows, but it looks like we may see Antiva City in this show. The next location I described in my breakdown as similar to Tevinter, with its tall, spiky towers and structures, the sprawling landmass and rocky landscape with its vast forests and valleys. However, while I do believe this is Tevinter, another possibility is that it resembles the Anderfells, as pointed out by my fellow Dragon Age YouTube content creator Watchman Gaming. Please check out Watchman Gaming's own breakdown for his own thoughts and speculation. It's fantastic. I really enjoy his videos and I look forward to more of his content. He certainly deserves more praise, more views and more subscribers, so please do check out his channel. Link to his video in the description down below. But yes, Watchman in his own video and in my comment section stated that he feels this location could be the Anderfells because of this massive Andraste statue. And you know what? It makes total sense. In the Anderfells, chantry practice is mandatory for all, and death is the penalty for all who refuse to comply. Therefore, having a massive statue to Andraste makes perfect sense, and to be honest, when I was thinking about this being in Tevinter, I was like, would they really have a massive statue of Andraste right there? Yes, they probably would, but the Anderfells kind of takes the cake for having massive statues of Andraste given their heavy belief system. Also, the Anderfells is a mountainous terrain, it has saturated skies, and a desert-like atmosphere, which I feel this location somewhat resembles resembles, so perhaps this location is the Anderfels. Adding even more to the idea that we may see the Anderfels in Absolution, or this location is the Anderfels, there is a Dragon Age codex titled Absolution, which describes ruthless assassins from the Anderfels. Is this codex representative of Absolution's story? How have we found something that is completely on the nose? Are each of these characters that we are going to experience from the Anderfels or related to the Anderfels and are a part of this order of assassins? Perhaps, but also perhaps not. This is just speculation from a small codex that was made ages ago. Who knows if it refers to Absolution's plot? Still, it's certainly something fun to throw out there, just in case it actually means something. Now, there's also another location shown in the trailer where we actually get to see the main party in full for the only time where actually all 6 members are there in the same shot. This location itself looks like it could be Tevinter, although it really could be anywhere because it is an ocean surrounded by landmass and a massive skeletal corpse. It's probably Tevinter because Tevinter is known for its large oceans with massive sea creatures as witnessed in Tevinter Nights and on the map of Thedas, so it's certainly a safe bet, but really it could be anywhere in Thedas next to an ocean. Still, it would be super cool to actually see one of these massive sea creatures in a game or in a show one day. I would love to see what is actually lurking out there in Thedas' oceans. And finally, a location featured in this trailer that is just a complete ominous mystery is a large pair of golden doors that open, showing a figure below them. At first, I thought that this was a dream or death sequence showcasing the Golden City as one of the main characters is greeted by the Maker, probably dying or dreaming. It may very well be that, as it looks too pristine to be anything else. Let's be honest, Thedas at times is pretty dirty. That being said, maybe some artistic liberties have been taken and this is a grand palace or a throne room, maybe in Tevinter, perhaps something like that. But for the moment, it's honestly a complete enigma. I still like my Golden City theory just because of the sheer scale of these doors, and I have no clue whatever else it could be. Let's move on to the most exciting aspect of this show, the new characters. First up, we have one of the villains of the show, we assume, that being a brown-haired mage wearing a black and gold coat, most likely a Tevinter Magister or a Blood Mage, something of that ilk. I'm just going to call him a Tevinter Magister because I think it's a pretty safe bet that he is just that. His motivations so far obviously are unknown, but we get somewhat of an idea through this trailer. Despite his red-lit eyes and ominous magic spells, we assume that this mage is one of the villains as the trailer reveals him fighting our elven rogue protagonist. Now, we'll confirm that she is our protagonist later on in just a second, but I'm assuming at the moment that this story will follow this Magister attempting to unleash one of the remaining old gods or original Tevinter Magisters, given this Ouroboros and its representation of destruction and rebirth, and this unleashed or imprisoned pride figure, whatever it is. Again, we'll touch upon that in just a second. Also, Absolution as a title refers to absolving someone of guilt, sin, obligation, punishment, imprisonment, etc. All of the ideas that come to fruition there regarding the old gods, the elven gods. Like, legit, Thedas has so many things that are just locked away or sleeping or don't have enough magic to enter the waking world. You can really take your pick at what could be unleashed onto Thedas through this Magister. Assuming the motivations of the villain already from one trailer, it would seem that perhaps our villains are on a quest to unleash a mighty evil onto Thedas for whatever purpose they seek. It could be something clinically Tevinter, like trying to restore the Tevinter of old, or there could be a completely different new reason belonging to this Magister. Maybe something more original, who knows, I'm sure we'll find out in time. I'm also assuming that this Magister is going to unleash some evil. Again, all assumptions here, this is just fun speculation. Now, continuing with the villains, we have two prominent figures in this scene who are seemingly summoning this pride spirit thing in this very ominous room. The figure to the left is a brown-haired human warrior with a weapon and shield wearing Templar armor. She was witnessed later in the trailer smashing what looks like a rage demon with a different weapon, that being a war hammer. Her armor resembles the same style as our Tevinter Magister villain, so it's safe to assume that they're working together to achieve the same goal. Now, given her armor and weapon style, I feel like this brown-haired warrior is a Red Templar or something of that ilk. Red Templars are involved in this narrative. She looks like a Templar, she's evil, she's probably a Red Templar. That's at least my logic. Now, the figure to the right is a mage, and originally in my breakdown video, you can quote me on this, I absolutely thought that this was a completely different character. Someone brand new, someone really only witnessed in this scene. However, after a closer look and a proper investigation into this character, I'm fairly certain that this is our prevalent male magister from just before. This figure has the same wonderfully decorated staff, the same kind of haircut, as well as the same trimmed dark robes with flecks of gold and a tight waist belt. You can just compare the two shots here and they look identical, and it really is that staff that gives it away. With that, I'm just going to say that this is our male magister. So we have this male magister and this red Templar lady working together, seemingly to summon or speak with this ambiguous hooded figure that demands more speculation. So let's talk about what I'm going to call this pride figure. This ambiguous, peculiar hooded figure with glowing eyes like a pride demon could be many things. A spirit transforming into a pride demon, a pride demon manifested in a human body, a high-ranking agent of Fen'Harel, a new rare type of demon, Solas's new look, a messenger of Fen'Harel, the formless one, a forbidden/forgotten one, a vessel of an old god, an ancient twisted magister, or something completely different, maybe even something completely new, not distinguished in the Dragon Age lore currently. In any event, this figure sticks out like a sore thumb. The general consensus in the fandom seems pretty puzzled by its identity. Once more, I assume this is the ancient evil horror or being that the Magister wants to free for nefarious purposes. Maybe it straight up is just the evil threat of the narrative, or maybe it's not. It's hard to say. It does seem though that this figure is being held in this beam shield thing and hasn't been unleashed just yet. But it is awake, and given that it has a mouth, it seems like it can communicate with whoever in order to potentially be freed. Now, as stated again, this being does seem elven in nature as it has eyes like a pride demon, and we refer pride to Solas, the elven god of rebellion, the man whose name literally translates to pride in elven tongue. Now, more interestingly, Solas split the veil and sundered the elven people from themselves, potentially splitting their physical and spiritual forms from each other. In addition, thanks to the sundering of the elven empire, the nature of spirits and demons was way more ambiguous than it is in Thedas today given the Chantry. Spirits and demons are categorized between good and evil, when in reality, as proven by Solas, Mafal, and so many other factors, spirits and demons are just very ambiguous in their nature. It's fair to say that this figure naturally has many elven ties. Now, given that Tevinter's lore and foundations are just directly based on the ancient elves, but Tevinter just doesn't want to confess it, i.e. literally Tevinter is the homeland of the elves, then you've got magic, history, artifacts, and so many other aspects. Literally just bring Solas and Dorian with you for that amazing party banter where they're just comparing and it's like, yeah, bruh, it's elven. Given how similar they are, maybe we'll actually witness more revelations related to this Tevinter and ancient elf crossover in Absolution, foreshadowing Solas's scheme to reclaim the land of Tevinter and potentially the old god's true identity. I don't know if we'll get massive lore drops or huge revelations like that in a TV show. However, maybe this figure will push the dots in some way connecting Tevinter to the ancient elves more. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Nevertheless, I'm very eager to understand the identity and story behind this figure. It's definitely for me one of the most exciting aspects of the show, figuring out what in Thedas this figure is and what exactly it entails for Thedas. Next up, we have our squad of heroes, the characters that we're going to fall in love with, the ones that we're going to build attachments with, and the ones that we're hopefully going to learn and see develop through this entire show. We'll start with our elven rogue, who has been confirmed as the protagonist of Absolution via press releases from Netflix, and they also featured on the key poster art of the show, confirming that they are indeed going to have a huge role in Absolution as its protagonist. Throughout the trailer, our elf was seen in many different clothing items. Her main outfit seems to be this teal green cloak with a light blue tunic, followed by holstered pockets and 2 sets of khopesh. Now, commentator Nehen Belinaris corrected my original breakdown video and said that these daggers aren't just daggers, but they actually are khopesh, which in the real world are Egyptian weapons used by the pharaoh's guards, which I think is absolutely fascinating and could even allude to many aspects of this elven rogue's history, story, and background. There's a lot of association with ancient Egypt within Navaran culture, the whole mummifying the dead and building pyramids. Now, not to be too stereotypical and on the nose, but maybe khopesh daggers actually come from Navara. Maybe this elven rogue comes from Navara. Maybe she has just been in Navara. Maybe she lives in Navara. Who knows? But even so, it's still fascinating to understand the precise weapons that she uses. Later on in this trailer, we got a very good shot of our elf's face. She's wearing a white tunic and looking absolutely terrified, a at some kind of a magical ritual in this scene. We can see a marking on her left eye, which is probably one of the most significant things that we can use to characterize her. I feel that perhaps this could be a Tevinter slave marking, and I know that many of you all do as well, as there is no Valesthine like this. If this is indeed a slave marking, maybe this can confirm the relationship between her and the villainous Magister. She could be a former slave to him. Perhaps she ran away naturally. Maybe she witnessed something she couldn't bear, like she is in this scene. Maybe she stole something of significant value. Maybe she heard of a lucrative rumor and decided to pursue it. Who knows, but I do think it's a decent theory that she is a former slave to this Magister given this marking. It could, however, be something different. Maybe a new different faction's branding, maybe a new style in Tevinter, or wherever this elf is from. Truth is, I really am just trying to connect as many dots as possible when I see them. At the end of the trailer, we see our elf wiping blood off her face, declaring that she and the group are in. Wherever they are in, I don't know, but I can only assume what it refers to. Maybe it's a vault, a sacred temple, a ruin, a palace, I don't really know. I am getting plenty of heist vibes from this though. Whatever this mission is, it seems like it's going pretty well and according to plan, considering they've already made it inside so far. Next up, we've got the most exciting character in the show for me, and I know many of us as well, as seen in my comment section and on Twitter, and that is the Qunari mage for Shoth, who looks absolutely beautiful and badass as hell. We first saw her helping a group of people setting an alleyway ablaze. Now, Pancakes with a W noticed that our Qunari mage didn't have a scar around her mouth, so perhaps she was raised outside the Qun entirely. Now, this is something that I completely missed, so thank you so much, Pancakes with a W, for this comment. Because you see, in the Qun, mages are treated as a dangerous threat. As seen more promptly in Dragon Age 2, they are chained and stitched up and commanded by a rod at the hands of another Qunari. Our Qunari though shows no signs of any process like that. No kinds of damage, no kinds of stitching, none of that stuff. So it would most likely seem that she grew up outside of the Qun, maybe even among clusters of people, considering that she did help defend a few villages in that alleyway. Maybe she's just a very altruistic person. Either way though, based on her appearance alone, it would seem that she has been raised outside of the Qun. Now later on we see her in a completely different outfit, casting a massive beam spell against what I believe is this Magister. If we look very, very closely, we can see his staff just before he's hit with this spell. Now this could certainly be another character using this Magister's staff, or another mage who has the exact same staff as this Magister, but connecting the dots as I see them in this trailer, I believe this could be our Magister, and in which case he is being yeeted by our Qunari. Honestly, I cannot wait to meet this Qunari. I am very excited for more Qunari characters as a whole in the Dragon Age universe, so yeah, I'm super hyped just to get to know her and find out more details about her. The next character I wanted to look at doesn't seem to be a part of the main group. At least they haven't been seen with the rest of the group together, so they could really be a villain or a hero or someone in between, maybe even a different faction. Either way, they seem to be a lady human rogue with the same face marking as our elven rogue protagonist. So perhaps they are also a former slave of this Magister, or they're attached to the same faction as our elven protagonist, or they have the same style as this elven protagonist, whatever this eye marking really means. Regardless, she attacks two figures who look like Red Templars or guards in some kind of larder. Now our beautiful Canary from before was also in this larder attacking the Magister, so perhaps this human rogue is on our side considering she's attacking what would seem to be the bad guys. In any event, this human rogue looks very deadly and fierce, and I really hope that she's on our side. Next up we have our Dwarven warrior, and I love this guy. He looks amazing. We saw him previously in a top-down shot with a battle axe, wearing a brown tunic with a white shirt. In the following scene he's wearing what would be the same clothes, and we have a beautiful close-up shot of him slashing undead with his battle axe. I absolutely love brutish, burly dwarves. Like, look at his beautiful facial hair and long ponytail and the little bits of jewelry he has, and tell me he doesn't look stunning and fantastic. I'm very excited to meet this dwarf. I just get good vibes from him. I feel like he's going to be very comedic as well, kind of just the one who's quite quiet, but when he does speak he's hilarious. The interior behind our dwarf reminds me of the Deep Roads with its tall structures and rune-like lights, but yeah, it's really hard to tell whereabouts they are. It does look like it's somewhere underground or in a cave given the undead surrounding them. Next up we have our human warrior. He's a very dashing man with a shaved haircut, slashing his sword and shield. His appearance is very knight-like. He looks quite regal. Now we can see him later on in different less shiny armor in the very scene where our elven rogue said we're in. That would indicate that this slashy undead scene is a completely different sequence from this we're in scene, given that he is wearing two different sets of armor unless he did a quick change. So I do wonder about the development since those two events. I wonder if the we're in scene is probably like one of the first episodes where they're all together establishing some kind of heist, maybe the first mission, and then this fully bulky armor scene where they're slashing all these undead is towards the end. It's really hard to tell, obviously, because we're breaking down a trailer that is 1 minute long. Next up, we have our human mage. She's a very pretty woman with a long ponytail. We've only really seen her in these blue robes too, whereas everybody else has kind of had different armors apart from the dwarf. Our human mage here seems to just be wearing these robes. However, she does have what would seem to be two different staves, as seen in two different shots. She has one that literally explodes, while she holds another one in the we're in scene. I don't know if this is an upgrade or if she's stolen somebody's staff or whatever's really happened. Either way, I really hope that she doesn't kill everybody and explode with that final spell there. And finally, we have this human rogue who is the most ominous of all, because we didn't really get a close-up look at him. All we got was this wide angle as he's with everybody else, and he looks kind of smug. That's all I can really say, you know. We assume he's a human rogue because later on we can see a top-down shot of him and he's not got a battle axe or a sword and shield, and I feel like I can see two swords or daggers. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what dynamic he will play into this and what kind of man he is. But anyhow, combining these two shots together, this is the entire squad all together. A dwarf warrior, a Qunari mage, human warrior, elf rogue, human mage, and a human rogue. All again assumptions from my part, but I feel like it's pretty obvious. And with that combination, we get two members of each class forming our new band of heroes. The group in a few of these scenes have matching colours coordinated with their outfits. Our Qunari mage, dwarf warrior, and smuggish human rogue follow this brown and white colour scheme with gold trims, while our human warrior, human mage, and elven rogue protagonist each have a light blue, brown, and white colour scheme. Maybe they just like to coordinate together, or maybe the team were originally from two different factions, banding all together in order to achieve the very same goal, or maybe it's just a really cool look. If they were banding together as two different factions, what could those factions be? Well, I have no clue, but I have seen a lot of people feel like these agents could be Lords of Fortune, seeking glory, wealth, and treasure as they follow this endeavour. And I really like that idea, it makes perfect sense. Perhaps the party were looking to steal this Tevinter Ouroboros as seen in the trailer, and they end up on this quest to stop whatever this Magister is attempting to release. Maybe they come face to face with this pride-like spirit and go, yeah, that's a bad thing to release onto the world, we're gonna stop that. Who knows, there are certainly many possibilities we can think about. In any event, all we know really is that they're all gonna band together on some grand scheme. Let's talk more about this story of Absolution in my final category. So we've speculated that Absolution will feature the Red Templars as somewhat of a threat to this narrative, mainly establishing its potential timeline, either during Inquisition or post-Inquisition. There is certainly some connection to Inquisition. The series is predominantly set in Tevinter, however it seems like the show will take us to other locations in Thedas, like Antiva and maybe even the Anderfels. The characters of the story may be assassins, Lord of Fortunes, a brand new faction, a group related to the Inquisition, or something else, maybe even just a band of adventurers or friends joining together for the greater good. The narrative surrounds elves, mages, knights, Qunari, Red Templars, demons, and other special surprises. I assume the special surprises there really relates to that pride figure who seemingly connects to Solas. Is this figure going to be the entire threat of the narrative, or are they just a small piece to play in the grand scheme of things? What in Thedas are they? Is this figure going to connect to Dragon Age Dreadwolf in some way? Probably not, but it would certainly spice things up a little bit. An Ouroboros is featured in this show, representing the eternal cycle of destruction and rebirth, potentially referring to the overall threat our party will face. If true, what exactly is going to be unleashed onto Thedas if not stopped? Is this going to be a new foe, or is it going to be something deep within the Dragon Age lore that is going to make us hardcore fans blow our freaking minds? That would be certainly something. Dragon Age Absolution is marketed as a saga, which I would assume means multiple more seasons to go after this one if successful and not cancelled by Netflix. Netflix. Does that mean that this show's narrative has been created for longevity? Are we going to get a cliffhanger ending? Are there already more stories planned for future seasons? How much room is there for growth in the future of this show's story? Because what I'm thinking about is, if this show is given a season 2 and that doesn't release until 2023, 2024, and Dragon Age Dreadwolf is already out by the point of release, is season 2 going to connect into Dreadwolf, or is season 2 going to be its own self-contained thing? Is the show going to keep on going long after Dragon Age Dreadwolf has been released, post DLC? What's the narrative going to be about for Absolution then, if we get to that point? Will it ever connect to the games? Will we ever see returning or cameo characters? How is it going to play out like that in the grand scheme of things? I have so many questions and more, as you'd expect, but until the show comes out, I'm just either going to have to wait for the answers or try to answer them myself. Once we hear more about this show, of course, I'll be covering that the moment news drops on Dragon Age Absolution and of course Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Once the show is released on Netflix, either all at once in one foul binge or episodes weekly, I will be uncovering and breaking down each episode one by one in separate videos, enjoying the beautiful Dragon Age content we will have this December. Is there anything you have to bring to the conversation on this extended thoughts and discussion video on Dragon Age Absolution? How do you feel about the show? Are you excited? Let me know all your thoughts down below. I would love to hear from you. But of course, for all your things Dragon Age, you're already in the right place. I have been Jackdaw, and until the next one, I should go. Whoa.